I will become Shinichi Yamamoto, and I will lay myself down to rest in the Arch de Triomphe, surrounded by my millions of fans. This is a page, these are 2 pages from the 1974 lecture on the Shoji-ichi Daiji Kechimyaku Sho Go Sho, the heritage of the ultimate law of life Go Sho. And if you can see on the right side, ultimately he concludes that President Makaguchi's death in prison occurred at the same time as President Toda's enlightenment. This is here, written between the lines. It's fudged a little, but then it's reset again in these 2 pages. So go ahead and read this and understand that there's meaning, double meaning in most of what President Ikeda is writing. He'll say one thing and then he'll say another thing. For instance, in this, he says it may have been a coincidence, or it may have been an inevitability. Whatever the case, it was the starting point for the Gakkai's new destiny. Well, it's true that President Toda's experience in jail was a starting point for the Gakkai's destiny, for the Gakkai's growth. Because when you have somebody that's really enthusiastic and really has a deep understanding of Nichiren Daishonen's Buddhism, then they want to spread it to other people. But this turning it into some strange type of Kechimyaku, some kind of occurred at the moment of death, and then Mr. Ikeda somehow inherited this magical thing, and now that becomes the Kechimyaku of the law, which is of course not the true practice of Buddhism or the true teaching, any more than it's the true teaching that the priests themselves are the Kechimyaku, or the high priest is the Kechimyaku of the law. No, only the Gohonzon, Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, the one great secret law, is this Kechimyaku of law. We have that transmitted. We receive it. We hear of Buddhism horizontally, with faith. But the true law was already taught, and it's already integral to our life. Nichiren Daishonin never even said that he was the Kechimyaku of law. He said that the Gohonzon is the Kechimyaku of law, or the mystic law is the Kechimyaku. Mystic law is this lifeblood that we get by chanting to the Gohonzon, doing Kyochi Myogo, fusing our subject and object. It's not fusing our subject to the object of Daisaku Ikeda, or Jazai Toda, or even Nichiren Daishonin. It is the law of Buddhism that we are practicing. Our life is already one with this law, and we practice and becomes more crystallized in our life, and we can awaken to our real self. And masters or teachers or mentors can point, but they can't take over that position as being an intermediary between the practitioner and the object of worship, or the object of devotion, which in this case is this one great secret law, Nam-myoho Renge-kyo and the Gohonzon, and is really, and the place that you're practicing is really this mystical law. So read this carefully. You can pause it and read it if you want to read it more carefully. A lot of people would gloss over this. So there's a lot of things that President Ikeda writes in here that is true and valid. And it's mixed with these other things. These theories, these superstitious kind of theories. It's almost like folk religion. Now here we have a passage from the Human Revolution, Volume 19. You might want to pause it and read it carefully, but basically it's President Ikeda here is avoiding mentioning Mr. Williams, even avoiding giving him a name for the book. He just calls him the American leader, or sometimes he's a Japanese American leader, that sort of thing. And here Mr. Williams says, "Sensei, you must be very tired. Please get some rest." And the response to that was scolding. "The word tired doesn't exist in my vocabulary." What a cliche that is. If a general in a battle were to express that he was tired. So why is Mr. Williams getting scolded? Mr. Williams was tireless. Mr. Williams was putting out about as much effort as any human being could ever put out. Here we have self-aggrandizement. He arrives at Malibu, 3 or 4 hours of sleep, and he's back into action. Now here we have passages from the book, The Wisdom of the Lotus Sutra, and it's in the interview form, and President Ikeda is explaining how the bodhisattvas of the earth in the Lotus Sutra, they appear in front of Shakyamuni, and the first thing they ask is, how are you doing? You feel okay? Are you getting enough rest? It's just a standard greeting in sutras. It's respect. And then he goes on to say how President Toda would respect him even more, or be more careful to, how are you? So we don't hear in that Human Revolution that we just read, where Daisaku Ikeda says he was concerned about his health, even after all the non-stop hours he had been putting out. Instead, he scolded him. And that same scolding for that same thing begins again and a little bit later in the book at the San Diego, right after the San Diego, or in between the San Diego Convention, where Mr. Williams and Mrs. Williams are mentioned, and Mr. Williams is scolded, and for suggesting that President Ikeda might need some rest. And when President Ikeda says he wants to go to the control center, and of course he has in his mind that he wants President Ikeda to be able to rest. It was, and he probably had other things planned, and there were probably other people waiting, or who knows what. And he knew he had to. He was concerned about President Ikeda's health, or if he was too tired after plane trips, etc., and lots of vigorous schedule. So here we have the Human Revolution itself, and you can read the parts that I've marked. You can read the whole thing, and if it goes off screen you can pause it. I'm not going to read it here to you. I might make a few points here. The leader found it hard to hide his puzzlement at the unexpected request. "You want to visit the control center? It's very messy and crowded. There's no place there for you to rest." And what we have here is President Ikeda scolding George M. Williams in public, which of course any leader standing there would be, oh wow. It's undermining. And in a little bit, President Ikeda says the same thing, or scolds George Williams, or mentions his displeasure, makes some joke in the presence of Mr. Williams' wife. So in other words, divide the family. He's the mentor. Maybe he's got, the right of the first night or something. I mean, seriously.